In this lesson, we're going to wrap up our overview of REST-style services. In particular, I'd like to highlight what's good and not so good about such services. Like everything else in computing, there are pluses and minuses, so I'd like to touch on those two topics. To begin, let's review the conversational pattern in a REST service. So I've got the cursor set in the working file, rest2.txt, to this line, and this depicts a request that goes from a client written in whatever language to a RESTful service written in whatever language. So the request consists of an HTTP verb-noun combination and perhaps an HTTP body. So let me clarify. A GET request in HTTP does not have a body. So basically, all of the information has to come in the so-called start line, which we've seen before. So in this case, get Acme products. This is a read request. And in the HTTP header. So for example, the HTTP header would specify the network address of the machine that hosted the desired resource. We don't have to get into the detail right now. An understanding of the concept is sufficient. By contrast, a post request, in this case, create a new Acme order. The details of the order are going to be in the body of the post request. A post request always has a body, although technically the body could be empty. Now, in the other direction, coming back from the service, what we get is a status code plus a body. So an HTTP response always has a body. The body could, however, be empty. So for example, if everything went okay, we might get back a status code of 201. We might get an XML payload, a JSON payload, a plain text payload, a binary payload, and once again, the MIME data types would be used to specify what it was that we were getting. Now let me turn to the pluses and minuses. As noted earlier, all of the social networking sites, so for example, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and so on, these all support REST-style web services, and that's no accident. If you're supporting a REST-style service, you're obligated, in effect, to send back information, typically in document form. And XML is extremely attractive if you're on the server side, because any modern database system can dump its tables, its views, and so forth as XML. So for example, if I want the Acme product list, and that product list is in a standard database, they can simply dump the table as an XML document, and I, the web service, just return that to the client. I'm going to summarize this by saying there's very little pain in a RESTful service on the service side. The client side represents, in effect, the pain point, in particular with XML. If I'm a client and I get back an XML document, I need to parse that document to extract the informational content. The problem is that there is no uniformity across the industry for the kind of XML I'm going to get. So in particular, the XML I would get from Facebook would differ from the XML I get from Yahoo, from eBay, from Twitter, from Tumblr, and so on. REST, again, is a state of mind, if you like. It's a style. It's not a protocol. It's not a standard. So on the client side, I'm confronted with the difficulty of parsing XML. The big exception to this rule is if I'm a JavaScript client and I'm receiving a JSON document, because a JSON document is the text representation of a JavaScript object. So for example, the document from Acme in JSON might be a list of products. If I'm a JavaScript client, I can convert that list straightforwardly into a JavaScript array and then process the array in the usual way. So I'm going to summarize this point by saying the real challenge in REST-style web services tends to be on the client side. So one of the things we'll look at over time is how to minimize that challenge. So what I'm doing in this slide is summarizing the points that we've hit so far. I'm depicting, for example, the conversational flow from the client to the service and from the service back to the client. I'm summarizing the CRUD operations, as you can see over on the left-hand side, And on the right-hand side, I talk a little bit about what one can expect in an HTTP response in a REST-style web service.